At my baby's first birthday party, something happened that no one who was there will ever forget. Right as we were about to cut the cake, my husband's ex-girlfriend stormed into our backyard like a hurricane. She pointed straight at me, her voice trembling with rage, and screamed, "She's not the real mom!" For a moment, the world stood still. The music cut out. The conversation stopped. Every pair of eyes turned to me, holding my baby girl in my arms. Ellie looked up at me, completely innocent, just happy to be surrounded by balloons and cupcakes. I tightened my hold around her tiny body and smiled, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I knew something Vanessa didn't. We were ready for this moment. My husband Carter had gotten the DNA test results weeks ago, sealed in an envelope tucked away just in case his ex ever tried something this insane. And now, here we were, in front of our family, our friends, and even our neighbors who peeked over the fence, caught in the middle of a scene I wouldn't have believed if I hadn't lived it myself. Vanessa didn't just accuse me of lying. She attacked the heart of everything we had built, our family, our daughter, our future. But what she didn't realize was that we had the truth in our hands. Carter didn't hesitate. He turned, walked inside, and came back holding that envelope like it was a loaded weapon. My heart pounded so hard I thought I could hear it echoing off the walls of our house. Everyone was dead silent. I could see my mom gripping the side of a table, white-knuckled. My sister wiped a tear off her cheek. My best friend, Rachel, mouthed, "Are you okay?" across the yard. I nodded, but inside, I was boiling. Carter stood in the center of the backyard. He looked at me first, locking eyes with me like he was trying to give me every ounce of strength he had. Then he looked at Vanessa. His voice was steady, but there was an anger in it I had never heard before. He opened the envelope and pulled out the document. He didn't waste time, didn't try to soften it. He read it out loud for everyone to hear. Paternity probability, 99.9999%. Carter Hart is the biological father of Ellie Hart. I felt my knees go weak, not because I doubted, but because hearing it out loud was like a full-body confirmation that love, truth, and family always win in the end. Vanessa's face drained of color. She stumbled backward like she'd been slapped. No one said a word, not a gasp, not a whisper, just the sound of the paper fluttering in Carter's hand and Vanessa's shaky breathing. She turned and ran straight out the gate, down the sidewalk, and out of our lives for good. And me? I kissed the top of Ellie's head and smiled wider than I had all day. Because no matter what lies someone tried to throw at us, we had the truth, and it was stronger than any scream, any accusation, any bitterness clinging to the past. That day was supposed to be about Ellie, and it still was. We sang her happy birthday, we ate cake, we danced on the grass. We celebrated the miracle that was our daughter and the family we fought to protect. But I'll never forget the moment Vanessa tried to tear it all apart, and how, standing there under the afternoon sun, holding my daughter close, I realized she could never touch what we had, not even close. The morning of Ellie's first birthday started with sunlight pouring through our bedroom windows. Carter was already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, watching Ellie babble and giggle in her crib. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in. This was everything I had ever wanted. We had worked so hard to get here. The pregnancy had not been easy. There were moments I had cried myself to sleep, terrified we would lose her. There were nights Carter would just hold me, saying nothing, knowing words would never be enough. When Ellie was finally placed in my arms, tiny and perfect, it felt like a lifetime of prayers had been answered all at once. I poured all that love into planning her first birthday. I wanted it to be beautiful, a day she might not remember, but one that would be captured in photos and videos forever. A day that said, "You are loved. You are celebrated. You are ours." We spent the morning setting up our backyard. Carter hung pastel-colored balloons along the fence, while I arranged tiny cupcakes shaped like flowers on the tables. My mom arrived early with her famous homemade lemonade. She bustled around the kitchen, humming to herself, while my sister Rachel helped me set up the candy station. Carter's dad, Henry, manned the grill with my Uncle Tony, arguing over the best way to flip a burger. The whole place smelled like sweet frosting and sizzling meat, and every time I looked around, my heart swelled a little bigger. This was family. This was home. As guests started arriving, Ellie clapped her hands and bounced in her little pink dress. She had no idea the party was for her, but her joy was contagious. Kids ran through the backyard with bubble wands. Adults lounged under the string lights Carter had spent 2 hours hanging perfectly across the yard. For the first time in a long time, I felt completely at peace. I watched Carter lift Ellie high into the air, making her squeal with laughter. I watched my mom chase after the toddlers with a wide smile on her face. I watched Rachel lean against the fence, flirting shamelessly with one of Carter's friends. Everything was perfect. At least, it was until Carter's phone buzzed. I saw him glance down at it, his smile faltering for just a second. His thumb hesitated over the screen before he slid it into his pocket. He caught my eye and gave me a reassuring smile, but I knew him too well. Something was off. I walked over to him and brushed my hand against his. "Everything okay?" I asked quietly. He squeezed my fingers. "Fine, just a spam text," he said, but he would not meet my eyes. I let it go. It was Ellie's day. I wanted nothing to steal even one moment of her happiness. Carter kissed my forehead and said he was going to help his dad with the burgers. I stood by the gift table, straightening a few boxes, and tried to shake the strange feeling building in my chest. My mom came up behind me and put her arm around my shoulders. "You made such a beautiful day for her, Lila," she said warmly. I leaned into her, letting the comfort of her words settle my nerves. "Thanks, Mom. I just want everything to be perfect for her." She kissed my cheek. "It already is." Looking around at all the people who loved us, I believed it. I had married a man who adored me and our daughter. We had a home filled with laughter and memories. We were surrounded by family and friends who had watched us struggle and celebrated our triumphs. Whatever had made Carter hesitate, whatever little ripple had passed through him when he saw that text, it could not touch what we had built. It could not touch the life we had fought to create for Ellie. I was sure of it. So when Carter called everyone to gather near the table for the cake cutting, I smiled as wide as I could. I held Ellie in my arms, feeling her tiny hands clutch at my dress, her laughter bubbling against my chest. I kissed the top of her head and whispered, "Happy birthday, baby girl. You are so loved." I had no idea what was about to come through that gate. I had no idea that in just a few minutes, the perfect world I thought was solid and safe would be challenged in a way I had never expected. But even if I had known, I would not have changed a thing about that morning, because it was real, it was ours, and it was worth fighting for. The backyard was buzzing with excitement as Carter lit the single candle on Ellie's tiny smash cake. The flame flickered against the late afternoon sun, and everyone gathered around, phones in hand, ready to capture the moment. I held Ellie close to the cake, laughing as she reached out with chubby fingers to grab it before we could even sing. "Wait, baby girl," I said, brushing her hand back gently. "You have to hear the song first." Carter cleared his throat dramatically, making the kids giggle, and started us off with a loud, proud, "Happy birthday to you." Everyone joined in, voices filling the backyard with warmth and love. I felt Ellie's excitement as she bounced in my arms, squealing and clapping. I looked around at the people surrounding us, and for a moment my heart was so full it hurt. That was when the gate creaked open. The singing faltered as heads turned toward the sound. Standing in the doorway, framed by the white picket fence and the fading sunlight, was Vanessa Monroe. She wore a tight red dress, heels sinking into the soft grass, blonde hair whipped around by the breeze. Her face was twisted into something ugly, anger, jealousy, and something else I could not name. For half a second, nobody moved, nobody spoke. Then Vanessa raised her arm and pointed straight at me. Her voice sliced through the silence. "She's not the real mom. She's a fraud, and all of you are falling for it." A stunned gasp rippled through the crowd. I felt Ellie tense in my arms. Carter moved toward me instantly, but I stood frozen, heart slamming against my ribs. Vanessa marched forward, ignoring the dozens of eyes trained on her. "Ask them!" she screamed. "Ask them about the DNA test. They are hiding the truth. She is lying to all of you." Murmurs broke out among the guests. I caught snippets. "Is she serious? What is she talking about? That poor baby." My mom stepped forward, trying to block Vanessa's path. "You need to leave before you embarrass yourself any more than you already have," she said, her voice low and firm. Vanessa laughed, a high, cracked sound that sent chills down my spine. "Oh, I'm embarrassing myself. I'm trying to save you from being conned by a homewrecker." Carter's face was like stone. He stood tall, shoulders back, radiating a quiet fury I had rarely seen. He held out his hand to me. "Give Ellie to Mom," he said in a low voice. I nodded, heart pounding so loudly I barely heard myself whisper to my mom, "Take her, please." As my mother carried Ellie away, shielding her from the chaos, I turned to face Vanessa fully. I refused to shrink. I refused to show even a flicker of fear. "This is Ellie's birthday," I said, my voice steady. "You will not ruin it." Vanessa smirked. "Oh, I think I already have." Carter stepped between us. "Get out, Vanessa, before you regret this even more than you already will." She folded her arms, digging her heels into the ground like a child throwing a tantrum. "Not until everyone knows the truth," she spat. "Not until you admit you are lying about that baby being yours." The blood drained from my face, but I stayed rooted to the spot. I thought about every moment of fear during my pregnancy. I thought about every night Carter and I had prayed for Ellie to make it into the world safely. I thought about the first time she smiled at me, the first time she said, "Mama," the way she reached for me whenever she was scared. I knew the truth, and no tantrum, no lie, no desperate scream from a bitter ex could take that away from me. Carter turned back to me, his eyes asking a question without words. I nodded once, a silent agreement that we were done playing defense. It was time to end this, here and now. He looked out over the stunned crowd. "You all deserve the truth," he said, his voice clear and steady, "and you're about to get it." He walked toward the house, his shoulders tense with purpose. My hands shook slightly, but I held my head high. My mom moved closer, ready to shield me if necessary. I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes on me, friends, family, neighbors, all wondering what was about to happen. I stood there, alone in the center of the backyard, as the air thickened around me. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. And deep down, I knew that once Carter came back with that envelope, nothing would ever be the same again. Carter disappeared into the house, and for a long moment, nobody moved. I stood frozen by the gift table, hands curled into fists, trying to steady my breathing. Vanessa paced across the lawn like a restless animal, glaring at me with pure hatred in her eyes. Every second stretched unbearably long. My mom stood beside me, her hand resting lightly on my back. I could feel the tension in her fingers, the rage she was holding back. Rachel had picked up Ellie and was rocking her a few steps away, whispering soothing words in her ear. My daughter, innocent and perfect, had no idea her first birthday had turned into a battlefield. I would not let Vanessa win. I would not let her ruin what we had fought so hard to build. I turned my body slightly, facing the crowd, forcing my voice to stay calm and strong. "I know this is not what you came here for," I said, "but I want you to hear the truth too." Vanessa let out a sharp laugh. "The truth? Please, the truth is standing right here and none of you want to see it." Ignoring her, I continued. "Weeks ago, Carter and I decided to get a DNA test." Gasps rippled through the backyard. I heard someone whisper, "Why would they need to do that?" Another voice muttered, "This is insane." I raised my chin higher. Not because we doubted each other, not because there was ever a question in our hearts, but because Vanessa has been harassing us for months, spreading rumors, threatening to show up with so-called proof that Ellie wasn't really ours. I could see some guests nodding, their faces twisting in sympathy and anger. Others looked shocked, as if the idea that someone would attack a baby's place in a family was too cruel to imagine. "She wanted to destroy what we have," I said, voice steady. "But instead, she made us stronger. She made us determined to never let hate and bitterness touch our daughter's life." Vanessa's face turned an ugly shade of red. "You're a liar," she hissed. "You manipulated him. You trapped him." I took a step toward her, feeling the power shift beneath my feet. "Carter and I chose each other. We chose this family. And nothing you say will ever change that." At that moment, the sliding door opened. Carter stepped back into the backyard holding a single white envelope. His face was pale but resolute, his jaw tight with the kind of anger that burns cold and clear. Everyone turned to watch him. Even the children stopped chasing each other, sensing that something heavy and important was about to happen. He walked straight to me, handing me the envelope first. His fingers brushed mine, a silent message of solidarity and trust. I looked down at it, feeling its weight, then looked back up at him. "Are you sure?" he asked quietly, his voice meant only for me. "I'm sure," I said. He turned to face the crowd, holding the envelope up for everyone to see. "For anyone who doubts," Carter said, loud enough for every guest to hear, "this envelope contains the DNA test results confirming that I am Ellie's biological father. We never wanted to have to share something so personal. But after today, after what Vanessa has done, we will not let one more lie be spoken about our family." Vanessa's smile faltered. Her arms, once folded defiantly, now hung stiff at her sides. I caught the flicker of fear in her eyes, the dawning realization that her plan was unraveling faster than she could stop it. Carter tore open the envelope, pulling out the papers inside. He scanned them briefly, then lifted his head. He began to read, his voice firm and clear. No anger now, just truth. Paternity analysis result. 99.9999% probability. Carter Hart is the biological father of Ellie Hart. The words echoed in the heavy silence. For a moment, nobody reacted. Then I heard my mother let out a shaky breath. Someone clapped once, hesitantly, and then others joined in, the sound growing louder until it filled the backyard. Vanessa stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to scream, but could not find the words. Her face crumpled, twisted with rage and humiliation. Carter turned to her one last time. "Leave," he said. His voice was low, final, unarguable. "And do not come back." Vanessa stumbled back, bumping into a table, knocking over a vase of pink flowers. She turned and fled through the gate without another word. I watched her go, feeling a fierce surge of pride and relief. I reached for Carter's hand, and he squeezed mine tightly. The truth had won, and we had done it together. The gate slammed shut behind Vanessa with a sharp crack that seemed to break the heavy tension hanging over the backyard. I stood there for a moment, gripping Carter's hand so tightly my knuckles turned white. I felt the weight of the last few minutes settle onto my shoulders and then slip away like a heavy coat being shrugged off. The truth was out. The lies were dead. Carter turned to face me fully, his eyes scanning my face, as if making sure I was really standing there, whole and unharmed. I smiled at him, a real smile this time, full of gratitude, full of love, full of something fierce that had been tempered and forged through fire. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly, I could barely breathe. I pressed my face into his chest, feeling his heart pounding against my cheek. All around us, our friends and family started clapping again, louder now, stronger, not for the drama that had unfolded, but for the strength that had been shown. My mom came over with Ellie in her arms. She was still wearing her little birthday crown, a frosting smudge on her chin, completely oblivious to the storm that had just passed over her world. I reached for her, needing to feel her weight in my arms. As I pulled her close, Ellie laughed and clapped her hands, and I could not help but laugh with her. Her innocence was a shield, a reminder that no matter what darkness tried to seep in from the outside, she was safe, she was loved, and she was ours. Carter kissed the top of Ellie's head and then kissed mine. "I am so sorry she did this," he whispered. "You have nothing to be sorry for," I said. "We stood together. That is all that matters." Around us, people started picking up where they left off. My Uncle Tony reset the flowers that had been knocked over. My sister Rachel wiped her eyes and went back to the snack table, determined to salvage the party. Carter's dad pulled the grill back to life, flipping burgers with a little more aggression than necessary. I watched them all with a heart so full it felt like it might burst. They had seen the worst, and they stayed. They had witnessed something ugly, and they responded with love. Carter called everyone's attention again. "I know this has been a wild afternoon," he said with a half smile, "but this is still Ellie's day. So let's sing her the happiest birthday song she has ever heard." The second round of Happy Birthday was louder, stronger, and filled with a kind of fierce joy that had not been there before. Ellie smashed her hands into her cake as everyone cheered, frosting flying everywhere. She squealed with delight, and the sound washed over me like the sweetest music I had ever heard. I sat down on the grass with her, not caring about the frosting or the dirt, letting her smear pink icing across my arms and laughing harder than I had in months. Carter dropped down beside us, getting just as messy, letting Ellie shove a tiny handful of cake against his cheek. The camera flashes went off again, but this time the smiles were bigger, more real. Not posed for show, but born from survival, from choosing joy in the face of hurt. Later, after the last guest had left and the backyard was littered with half-deflated balloons and forgotten party favors, Carter and I sat together on the porch swing, watching the sun set behind the trees. Ellie slept in my arms, her breath soft and even. Carter ran his fingers through my hair. "You are the strongest woman I have ever known," he said quietly. I leaned my head against his shoulder. "I did it for her," I said. "For us." We sat there for a long time, saying nothing, just holding each other and the life we had fought to protect. Vanessa's attempt to destroy us had failed, not because we had perfect lives, but because we had something she could never take away. We had truth, we had love, and we had a daughter who would grow up knowing that no matter what anyone said or did, her place in this family was unshakable. That was the real victory. That was the real gift. The next few days after the party felt like waking up after a storm. The sky was clear again, but the wreckage had to be picked up piece by piece. Carter and I spent Sunday morning cleaning the backyard, sweeping up fallen balloons and rinsing cake off the patio. Ellie napped peacefully inside, exhausted from all the excitement. At first, we worked in silence, moving around each other with quiet efficiency. Then Carter paused, leaning on the broom, and looked at me. "You know," he said, "this was still one of the best days of my life." I smiled and wiped my hands on a towel. Mine, too. It was not because everything had gone perfectly. It was because when things went wrong, when someone tried to break us, we did not fall apart. We held tighter. We stood taller. We chose love over fear. That was the lesson that stayed with me long after the party was over. Family is not just about biology or paperwork or even about perfect celebrations. Family is about standing beside each other when it would be easier to run. It is about fighting for each other when someone tries to tear you apart. Later that week, Carter filed a restraining order against Vanessa. It was not a decision we made lightly. Part of me wanted to believe she would feel enough shame to stay away on her own, but we had to be realistic. We were not just protecting ourselves anymore. We were protecting Ellie. The day we filed the paperwork, I sat in the back seat of the car while Carter ran into the courthouse. I watched Ellie sleeping in her car seat, her tiny chest rising and falling with each breath. She was so small, so unaware of the battles being fought for her sake, and that was exactly how it should be. When Carter came back to the car, he looked relieved. "It's done," he said. "She is legally banned from coming near us." I let out a breath I had not realized I was holding. "Good," I said. "Good for Ellie." We drove home in a comfortable silence, the kind that only exists between people who have weathered something hard together and come out stronger for it. In the weeks that followed, life settled back into a new kind of normal. We took Ellie to the park, watched her take her first wobbly steps, heard her babble her first real sentences. Her laughter filled every corner of the house, bright and fearless. And through it all, I felt something new growing inside me. Not anger, not fear, strength. I realized that being a mother was not about proving myself to anyone else. It was about the quiet moments, the late nights, the early mornings, the endless hours of love and care and patience. It was about the bond that no piece of paper, no screaming accusation, and no twisted lie could ever undo. Sometimes I thought about Vanessa. I wondered if she ever felt the weight of what she had tried to do. I wondered if she ever regretted it. But I learned to let those thoughts drift away like smoke. She was part of our past, not our future. One evening, as Carter and I tucked Ellie into bed, I looked around her little room. The walls were covered in soft murals of animals and stars. Her bookshelf overflowed with storybooks. The rocking chair in the corner still creaked, the same way it had when I first rocked her there, tiny and new. I bent down and kissed her forehead. She stirred and mumbled, "Mama," before sinking back into sleep. I stood there for a long moment, watching her, feeling a deep, unshakable peace settle over me. Vanessa had tried to shout lies into the middle of our lives, but the truth had stood taller. Love had stood taller. And in the end, Ellie would never remember the shouting, the chaos, the ugliness. She would only remember the laughter, the love, the family who had wrapped her in a circle of safety so strong that no one could break through it. As Carter and I closed her door and headed down the hall hand in hand, I knew, without a doubt, that we had won something far more important than an argument. We had built a home that even the loudest scream could not shake, and that, more than anything, made me proud to be her real mom. Thank you for listening to our story. It was not an easy one to live through, but standing here today, I would not change a thing. Every struggle, every test, every moment of doubt brought us here. Stronger, closer, and more grateful for the family we have. If you believe in the power of truth, love, and standing up for your family no matter what, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps more people find our story. Share it with someone who might need a reminder that love always wins. I would love to hear your thoughts too. Tell me in the comments what you would have done if you were in my shoes. I read every single one, and your support means the world to me. And if you want to hear more real, powerful stories like this, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There is so much more to come, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Thanks again for being part of our little family today. Stay strong, stay kind, and never forget, your truth is always worth fighting for.